New Icy Hot. Nighttime recovery. Relieves pain at nighttime while your body recovers. Icy Hot. You're so back.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Great to be with you on this Friday, brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, lots and lots of snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and out every day. 6 great flavors of slushies and ready-to-drink cocktails. Crown Royal, High Noon, Jack Daniels. And the Pickle Bar, led by my 2 personal favorites, the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none. All at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Good Friday to you. Great to be with you. We talked about Max Granville yesterday, right? It's just a follow-up. It's not the only one out there, and it's not a Penn State injury, but is an injury that will have an effect on a Penn State game. Evan Stewart, the really talented wide receiver for Oregon, lower body injury for him, long-term, and apparently out for the year. You don't want to see these things happen. That's just me. I just want to see one team's best against the other team's best and then see what you get. That's always been, I think you've probably heard me say that how many times in this show. But you also are passing along information to people so they have a better read on a team, a season, and so forth. And that's another one of those where you're like, oh, boy. You didn't want to see it happen, but it happened. So we passed that along. Aaron Rodgers did finally sign with the Steelers yesterday, so the Steelers now have the best quarterback in the state.
That'd be more fun if it was a Tuesday.
I'm still going to say it to him on Tuesday. You know that.
True.
Just to get a rise out of him. That's not true. He gets all emotional about that stuff. There's some people out there, you could push the buttons with complete ease. He sits there and goes, okay. He's the best quarterback. That's not true. Jalen Hurts is he just sit back and realize there's some entertainment value to it. I guess we're kind of simple, huh?
Pretty much.
Yeah. But, hey, that is, but he did sign the 1-year deal. Again, when you look at the first, I don't know, 8 games of last season, maybe the first 9 games, let's just say the first 9 games of last season. Take a look at the first 9 games of last season. He struggled. And what happened is along the way, the Jets were not put in prime time. Just waiting for the 2026 draft. Steelers playing for an early pick. You're not. You're playing for 9 and 8 again. I mean, this is what you don't get. Okay? This is what it means. That's what you're playing for. You're playing for 9 and 8 again.
10 and 7.
Right, maybe even 10 and 7. You're not. I mean, this is not a move that gets you into the top 10 to pick. It does not. It's quite the opposite.
Nor does it make you a top 5 team. You guess what? You're in the middle.
You're in the middle. This is an in the middle move. And I just think that okay, if you wanted to be a top 5 pick, you would have stuck with Mason Rudolph. Okay? This is not what their goal is. Okay? They drafted Caleb Johnson for a reason. They traded for DK Metcalf for a reason. They're talking to Gabe Davis for a reason. And that's I mean that this is the problem that you have with all this. Is that he's coming in. You look at the last 7-8 games of last season, he actually played pretty well.
And I think that's what I think that's what the suit is banking on. I think that's what some Steelers fans are banking on is it's not going to go well and it's going to tank the season. But I mean he's even in earlier than he was last year for the Jets.
Well, but again, he already knew the Jets system last year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. And he is not a big minicamp guy, but he hasn't had to have been a big minicamp guy. Why? Because he was essentially, for the most part, in the same system in Green Bay for long periods of time. He went to the Jets last year, didn't have to go in because he already was, he may not have played, but he already knew the system and the offense. This is different than so he feels he's got to be there. So he really has not had a chance to learn. So he hasn't had to learn a lot of systems in his career. How about that? Just hasn't.
This is also a strange move to me in the sense of not on the field, because I think it's a Steelers move on the field, but off the field where it's going to be a circus. I mean, they open at the Jets. There's a Green Bay game in the first 4 weeks of the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season.
Right.
Like I don't understand. It's usually not a Steelers organizational thing to have. It's going to be a circus, good or bad. I mean.
And Steeler fans don't like circus. They don't like they've never liked the circus.
No.
Steeler fans have never liked the circus. And that's why they don't want Rodgers. That's the thing that's so interesting about this. They don't, Steeler fans have not wanted. There's not been one of those, hey, let's call in the talk show and let's, we want Aaron Rodgers. Okay? But you look at what he did last year. Okay? He gets to week 9 and 69%, 211, 3 touchdowns, no picks. You look at the last, let's see, got one bad game against Buffalo. Okay? One bad game against Buffalo. But you look at the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. The last 10 games with the Jets last year. 9, 10, 14, 18 touchdown passes last 10 games, 4 interceptions. Last 10 games with the Jets last year, he threw 18 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He had, let's see, let's say, 2 duds, and that would be Buffalo up in Orchard Park, and then the game they played at Arizona where they got blown out 31-6. He didn't play well in either one of those 2 games. All the other games he played well. But he had 18 touchdowns, so 18 of his 28 touchdowns were in the last 10 games, and only 4 of his 11 interceptions were in the last 10 games. And he was consistently over 63% passing. Yeah.
I guess the other question about it is there enough weapons there for him to be good?
Well, you'll like Freiermuth, and I'll talk to Pat about it when I see him next week. You'll like Freiermuth. I think you'll like Warren in the backfield as a pass catcher. I mean, Warren's not an every down back. He'll love Gainwell. He'll love to throw the ball to. Freiermuth, terrific. DK Metcalf is that kind of deep threat. We'll see what they want to do with Gabe Davis. I think they ought to go out and get Alan Lazard. That's just me. Just to make everybody happy.
Well, Devontae Adams isn't available, so
he's
probably get the next best thing.
Yeah.
Well, relative to Aaron Rodgers, not in general talent.
Right, yeah. I mean, well, I mean, Calvin Austin could be a big plus for him. But, yeah.
I mean, he's still the 3rd best quarterback in the division.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I mean, between Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, my goodness.
4th, depending on how you feel about Shador.
He's the 3rd best quarterback in the division. Yeah.
I mean, it was my thought when everybody got excited about Kenny Pickett. I don't see the talent to get by the rest of those quarterbacks in the AFC.
No, they don't have that. But I mean, they have a decent defense. They'll re-sign T.J. Watt. Harmon will be brought along playing next to Cam Hayward. All right, Highsmith. Right, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joey Porter Jr. I mean, they got guys that can play. It's not like they don't have guys that can play. The problem is this is like probably a 9-8, 10-7 team, which allows you to spin your wheels. It's like the suit says he wants to throw this away and wants to get to the 2026 draft. This move doesn't get you there unless he gets hurt. If he gets hurt, then you are going to get there. Okay? If he gets hurt, you are going to get there. Because you may love Mason Rudolph because he won a couple games a couple years ago for you and they got into the playoffs with him and blah, 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 blah. He's a backup quarterback that can win you a couple games, and he performs that role well. Okay?
The Steelers were truly excited by Mason Rudolph. They wouldn't have gotten rid of him the first time.
Right, exactly. And if the Tennessee Titans loved him as a starting quarterback, they wouldn't have let him go this time.
No.
Okay? Right. That's the bottom line here. I mean, when other people are like going, I don't think so. When they don't have a good quarterback situation, that's not a good thing.
Well, apparently Skylar Thompson has played in enough Dolphins games that they're not getting excited about Skylar Thompson.
No. No, I've seen it. With Tua being hurt as often as he has been hurt down there, Skylar Thompson has had opportunities. And I think we'll leave it at that. I believe the body of work speaks for itself.
It does.
And then there's we got Will Howard. I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, am I missing something? With Will Howard, am I missing something here?
I think it's projection. I
realize he's the new guy, and everybody loves the new guy. They drafted a quarterback. He won a national championship, and he can do some good things, and he can run. But no offense, at this level, I don't see it. He made too many mistakes on the college level.
But he did play the best games of his career in those playoff games, and I think that's what a lot of people see.
He did.
And they think that that's Will Howard, and that's Will Howard at his absolute best. And I don't know, and that's the only time he's reached that. I mean, if he plays like that this entire, but let's be honest, do the Steelers have as many weapons as that Ohio State offense last year?
No, I mean, when you look at the college version of it, okay, Trevion Henderson would be the best running back on the Steelers. Okay, Quinshon Judkins, okay, might be the best running back of that, because I think Trevion Henderson's better than Caleb Johnson. Okay? I know Caleb Johnson had an awesome year. It was easy to vote for him on the All-Big Ten team, but Henderson, to me, has always been the better back. Pass-catching ability, running, the whole deal. Right? Well, that was Howard's running back with Judkins. Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate. They might be three better receivers than the three wideouts the Steelers have now. Now, Freiermuth's better than any tight end that they had last year. Okay, but I mean, let's get real here.
I mean, Jeremiah Smith's the first receiver taken if he's draft eligible this year.
You'd be debating whether he'd be the first overall pick, and I know Tennessee needs a quarterback. I got it. But
yeah, I mean,
Jeremiah Smith, and you know what's interesting against Penn State? Jeremiah Smith did very, very little against Penn State. It was Egbuka that hurt them, and the fact that they were able to run the football at the end of the game. By the way, I thought we did not address this, but condolences on Randy Crowder, the former Nittany Lion, who was such a terrific player here in the 70s, and then went on and had a nice career with the Dolphins, but was really terrific here in the 70s. He passed away a couple of weeks ago. And now Tom Rafferty, another terrific player at Penn State, who was a stalwart on the Cowboys' offensive line for, 10, 12 years? He passed away as well. Yeah, Rafferty I thought he was a terrific NFL player. And he played in the mid-70s here, I believe. He passed away. He was only 70 years old. This is, by the way, the 81st anniversary of D-Day. There are 4,400 people that passed away that day on the beaches, including 2,501 Americans. Look, those men who, well, let's face it, they're coming out of the transports. How many of them didn't even make it out of the transports? Yet in the end, their bravery, their guts, saved a nation, France, saved and freed a continent, Europe, and allows us to sit here and do what we do today with complete comfort because they eventually drove out and eliminated the Nazis. I was listening to an interview today of a man who's 103. And he was at D-Day. And he says, I was on D-Day. I was on the beach. I think it was Omaha Beach. And he says, and I was in 6 subsequent battles in World War II. He says, and somebody was looking over me because I went through all of that and never got a scratch. It was amazing listening to him because he's looking around like, he said, I don't know how. Like he said, he said 6, he says D-Day plus 6 subsequent battles. He said, I never got a scratch. But imagine everything that they saw. All the blood, the stench of death, as you're crawling inch by inch. At some point in my life, a place I really want to go is Normandy. And when you look back at one of the guys that was in Normandy, it was Elmer Gross. Okay? Omaha Beach, Elmer Gross. Who's Elmer Gross? Elmer Gross was is the basketball coach that took Penn State to the Final Four in 1954. All right, Dick Jerardi, next half hour here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The Beverage Supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour being brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. Terrific service department. Whether it's quick lane, inspections, routine, difficult, they handle it all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. It is the final leg of the Triple Crown, and that means Dick Jerardi. DJ, welcome back.
Hi, Steve. How are you, buddy?
Doing well. Again, at the Coaches versus Cancer, your putts help your team tear it up.
You know what? I didn't make any. I had like 2 or 3 to lip out so I could whine a little bit, but I was with a good group, and I did one of our fivesome made the longest putt. I want to say it was like 65 feet. It was on the hole where the longest putt got a prize. It's the longest putt I've ever seen made. We needed 2 measuring tapes. The 50-footer wasn't enough. So that was very cool.
That is very cool. Okay, so the Belmont. Before we get to the horses themselves, the old Belmont Park was 1.5 miles once around. Okay, start line, finish line. What is the structure at Saratoga, as you know, to get 1.5 miles as to how they have to do it?
Right. So it's 1.8 mile track, Steve, and they actually are not going to run this race at 1.5 miles because you just literally it doesn't work.
Yeah.
With the configuration. So for the second straight year, they're going to run at 1.25 miles, the Derby distance. And at Saratoga, that means they'll start at the 8th pole. They'll go to the finish line and then one more time around. So you have 1.8 miles plus an 8th, and it's 1.25 miles. Whereas the Derby, like Churchill Downs and Pimlico, are mile in circumference tracks.
Yeah.
So the Derby starts at the quarter pole. The Preakness is a little shorter. They start at the 3/16 pole. But yeah, they didn't feel comfortable doing it at 1.5 miles because I think it would start on a turn. It just wouldn't be right. So the hope is, the plan at the moment is Belmont Park, as you know, is undergoing renovation. They tore down the old building. The new building is taking shape. The racetrack itself will still be 1.5 miles. They're doing some things with the turf courses. They're putting an artificial track in there. I think it's going to be open next fall. We're talking the fall of 26, but probably not in time for the Belmont Stakes. So the thought is that the Belmont Stakes will be at Saratoga again next year, unless they get finished a lot faster than they think. And then the Belmont Stakes will come back to Long Island and Belmont Park in 2027, which is the same year the new Pimlico is supposed to open in Baltimore. And even though they just started there, the track basically as big as Belmont Park. It won't take as long to tear down. Plus, they're not doing anything with the racetracks at all at Pimlico. They will be exactly the same as before. So the hope is that they'll be up in 2 years. So in 2027, the 2 new tracks will be up and running, and obviously Churchill Downs isn't going anywhere. So.
Well, just so everybody knows, even though it was not a day of racing, Mr. Jerardi made sure I saw Saratoga.
We were
the beauty of it.
Yeah, we were up there, Penn State and Siena and Albany, and we took a ride up during the day to see the track on Union Avenue, America's oldest sporting venue, and got a little ride around the town. It's a great place. If people don't know the geography, it's 30 minutes due north of Albany, about 2.5 hours from Manhattan.
Okay, Journalism is the horse that's going to be making its third start in the Triple Crown. How would you rate the 2 trips? One was a win, one was a second, but how would you rate the 2 trips?
I didn't love the Derby trip, but that was mostly circumstance when the one-horse Citizen Bull decided to make a right turn out of the gate, kind of just crowded all the horses behind him. Journalism, one of them, and Steve, instead of being 5th early, where I thought he'd be, he was 10th. Instead of being like 5 lengths off the lead, he was 10. So it's just kind of the positional part of it wasn't what they had planned on. And he still finished second. I'm not sure he'd love the sloppy track either. But the worst trip was Preakness, when the rider, Umberto Rispoli, who really has been a turf rider most of his life, he's from Italy, he rode in Europe, he rode in Hong Kong, came to the U.S. 5 years ago, and still to this day doesn't have a giant amount of experience in major races on dirt. He made a terrible tactical mistake in the Preakness, where all he had to do on the far turn was just steer the horse away from the traffic to the outside. Right. Instead, as everybody saw, he decided, all right, I want to stay near the rail. It's the shortest way, and he basically created a hole that didn't exist. He was like the running back who was running through the line. There were 2 defensive tackles standing next to each other and just ran through them. He said, get out of here. Get out of the way. And it completely stopped his momentum, and it was crazy, and it was scary, and it was a mistake, and he can say it wasn't, but it was. And then the horse somehow, and I've never seen this. I mean, he had no chance at the top of the stretch. I mean, none. Right. He'd come to a stop. You can't do that in this sport. This isn't like a car where you can accelerate and start going fast. And somehow he regathered himself. And those last couple 100 yards made up 5 lengths to win. I've never seen that exactly in all the years I've watched horse racing. So I think it tells you how talented he is. Now, the question is, did that, plus the Derby, plus the Santa Anita Derby, is that starting to take a toll on him?
Right.
Is it just too much? And unfortunately, that's an answer we're not going to know until they run the race tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. But having watched his last work and watched him on the track, he looks fine. And knowing Michael McCarthy, who you met when we were at Santa Anita that day, came by the boxes to say hi.
Yep.
He wouldn't be running this horse if he didn't think he was right. So, and I'm rooting because Michael's a friend. I'm picking him, but I'd like to see a horse who runs at all 3 get rewarded.
Yes.
Right. So the Derby winner, Sovereignty, said, "Nah, I don't think so." Derby third, Baeza said, "Nah, no Preakness for me." So I think it'd be cool to see the horse that actually showed up at all of them be rewarded at the end and went 2 and 3.
Well, Sovereignty, of course, as you mentioned, was the Kentucky Derby winner and rallied from, I think, as far back as 16th, if I recall, to come back and win. It's been 5 weeks since. Your thoughts on Sovereignty? Because, we all know, Belmont's one of the top trainers out there.
Yep. No, he's legitimately good horse, Steve. I mean, his races going. His first race he ever ran was at 6 furlongs, similar to journalism. It's the only race where it wasn't right there at the finish. Ever since then, every one of his races has been terrific. What happened at the Derby was I think the circumstances were perfect for Sovereignty that day. Sloppy track, which he obviously liked, fast pace, was kind of by himself in the back where he got to relax, unlike journalism who kind of had to go into places where you really didn't want to go early just to hold the position. Sovereignty was able to get a completely relaxed trip and then just followed journalism around the far turn.
Right.
And ran, by all empirical data, 4 lengths better than he'd ever run in any race in his life. Right. So the question you're going to ask about him is that the new normal? If it is, then obviously he can win again. If it isn't, then he could potentially regress, and he could be a horse you could try to beat. I don't know that it's a great idea to try to beat him.
Yeah.
But at some point you're going to have to make a decision if you're gambling on this race. And I would probably try to beat Sovereignty, but I wouldn't spend a whole lot of money trying to do it.
Right. Rodriguez had won the Wood, and this is the Bob Baffert entry, and he's going to have Mike Smith aboard. Rodriguez won the Wood, then a foot injury kept the horse out of the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. What is your thought? I mean, because Bob's not going to run him unless he thinks he's right, so he must feel like he's right now.
Yeah, right. So he's had 3 works since the Derby. He went back to California, worked once at Churchill on the thought that they'd try the Preakness. That just didn't work. And I think his works have been great. I saw him. His Wood was really good. Mm-hmm. His 2 wins in his career, and he's only had 2, were when he got loose in the lead and just ran easily the 2 best races of his career. If he does that again, I give him a chance at an upset. 2 problems. One, Crudo is maybe just as fast as Rodriguez.
Right.
And if he's out there not by himself, then he's getting nothing. He's not going to just keep going if he's hassled the whole way. And secondly, even if he does get out there, he's probably just not good enough.
Right.
I mean, the only time he ran against journalism beat him by 11. But again, that was when Rodriguez did get the lead. Right. There's no question what they're going to try to do with him. And if it wasn't Bob, I would immediately toss him. But just because the guy's won 17 Triple Crown races, you got to take him seriously. But having said that, Steve, this is not the kind of horse he wins with.
No.
You usually know with him. I mean, it's not like you didn't know how good Point Give was, or Silver Charm, or his 2 Triple Crown winners. You knew when they were coming out on the track, and those 4 horses I just mentioned account for 10 of the 17.
Right.
So yeah, this is not that kind of a horse. You just don't see it. But again, it's Bob, so you have to at least look at it.
Yeah, you have to take it seriously that it's his entry, and that's what you have to do with it. Now, you mentioned earlier Baeza, which, to Baeza's credit, was actually closing on journalism at the end of the Derby.
Yep, he was.
And the rider's not bad.
Nope. The rider is the best there is, Flavien Prat. And it was interesting. He was supposed to be riding another horse in the Derby. That horse scratched. There was a late when Rodriguez scratched. Yeah. Pratt got to ride Baeza, and the horse he was supposed to ride was eventually ridden by Louis Saez. That's how they held him, obviously, the horse in high esteem. And if you watch the replay of the Derby, Baeza got further behind than I would have thought from the outside post. Right. And then they were following journalism, and he just couldn't keep up on the turn. And because of that, by the time he got around the far turn, Baeza ran into a bunch of traffic and lost his momentum. Yeah. And then you see him, as you said, Steve, closing fast on journalism at the finish. He's a legitimately good horse. He certainly has a chance. Didn't run in the Preakness. Will be the better odds of the three of them. Better odds, obviously, the Derby winner or the Preakness winner. Right. And one of the interesting footnotes is Baeza is by a horse called McKenzie, who Baffert trained. Very, very nice horse. Won the Pennsylvania Derby a number of years ago. And it's out of a mare called Puka, P-U-C-A. Puka is the dam of Mage, who won the Derby 2 years ago. Yep. And it's also the dam of Jordock, who won the Belmont last year. Right. So can you imagine? I mean, they just sold her a couple of years ago for $1.2 million, and that was looking like a bargain at the moment. Yeah. So technically, she could have the winner of a Triple Crown race 3 years in a row, which obviously has never happened before. It's very likely to never happen again.
What does an 8-horse field mean to how the race can play out?
Yeah, easier to read. Obviously, the Derby, there's just all that chaos because of the 20 horses or whatever, 19, 18, whatever the deal is. This is a real easy race to read. Rodriguez and Crudo are going out to the front. Baeza and Journalism are the next two fastest horses. Hill Road, Sovereignty, Uncaged, and Heart of Honor are all horses that come from the back. So you envision the 3 and the 5 out there. And the real question is, what does Pratt want to do with Baeza? Does he want to be in front of Journalism or behind him? I don't know the answer to that question, but knowing Pratt, whatever he does will be the right thing because he always does the right thing. Right. And Rispoli on Journalism, he's got he only has one thing to do here. You're in the 7 post. Just stay out there. Stay like 2 or 3 off the rail. Don't get behind horses on the rail again. Right. And this is one of the great straightaway runners I have seen in years. When Journalism gets into the straight in the home stretch, when everybody's tiring, like he did in the Preakness, he did it in the Santa Anita Derby, he did it in the San Felipe Stakes, he has this incredible stride. So just give this horse some sky to look at and not horses' butts. And he's got a real chance to win again.
Right. Well, exactly. I mean, he is. You and I always talk about play with the lead. Yep. When he has clear air, to him, that's him playing with the lead. Is that fair?
Precisely. That's exactly right. Yeah, give the horse his best chance. That's why what he did in the Preakness was such a disaster. Right. Again, the horse was able to overcome the rider, but Rispoli said later, well, he wasn't traveling as well as he was in the Derby on the turn, and I needed to save ground. I wasn't sure. Well, see, that's a mistake because you got to know that this horse's forte is the straightaway. I don't care how he's traveling on the turn. Just get him outside horses, and then you have, in the Preakness case, at the top of the stretch, Steve, you had over three and a half football fields to catch up. Yeah. That's a lot of time. Yeah. But, when you stop his momentum and he comes to a complete halt, then it makes life a little more difficult. But, again, the horse was so amazing he won anyway, which tells you this is a rare talent. Just don't get in his way.
That's why, with all due respect, and I'm not going to pretend I know how to, about riding a horse, but, You and I both know that Pratt's out at Santa Anita. We know Michael's out at Santa Anita. I was kind of wondering if he would ever make that changeover, but that's...
Well, I would think if Rispoli gets this horse beat again or does something stupid, yeah, he's gone. I don't know the origin of Rispoli does ride some of Michael's horses out there, especially on the turf.
Yeah. I
don't really know the origin of why he ended up on this horse anyway. His breakthrough race was in the Los Alamitos Futurity in December. Mm-hmm. Pratt rides back east now most of the year, but he would have been back in California by that time.
Right.
And Pratt rode Rombauer from McCarthy when he won the Preakness 3 years ago. And it's not like he doesn't ride horses for him. So I actually was a little surprised that he hung with Rispoli or gave them out to Rispoli. But, yeah, I think it's, again, maybe the horse is just going to overcome him, and maybe the rider's going to learn from his mistakes, although he doesn't sound like it. I mean, he keeps saying he did the right thing. Yeah, I guess we all want to say that, but he screwed up, Steve. He just did.
Right.
The horse just happened to overcome the rider in the Preakness.
So how do you want to play race number 13 at the Saratoga Race Course on Saturday?
So, I'm probably not going to play the exactas because it looks like a 7-6 or a 7-2, and I want to go elsewhere. I'm going to try to get live in the late double here. The race prior to the Belmont is the Manhattan Stakes.
Yeah.
I like the 5 in here. A horse called Deterministic, who should be in the lead with my man Kendrick Carmouche. So I'm going to play a one-punch double. Deterministic to Journalism, 5-7. So that way, if the 5 does win, I will already have essentially a significant win bet on Journalism.
Right.
Instead of getting 8-5, I'm probably going to get him at 7 or 8-1 because Deterministic's going to be 5, 6, 7-1 in the first half of this double.
And that's the key. I mean, how can you maximize? How can you potentially maximize what you're doing? And that's what you're trying to do between the two races.
Yeah, do you have an opinion? And then how do you most frame a bet to give your opinion the best chance to win the most money? That's really the game. And look, there'll be times when Journalism will win. Like I played one exacta in the Preakness, and it turned out my other half of the exacta ran last.
Right.
But that's the nature of it. I didn't want to take Journalism at even money. I'm trying to see if I can make some more money. But you will lose some that way. But if you do it right enough, like I had one yesterday at Saratoga where I really liked the horse's 5th race, and the race prior, I don't have a clue, but John Service, Smarty Jones fame, had a horse in the race. I said, you know what? Let me just put him with my horse in the next race. What the hell? And if he doesnn't win, fine. I'll find another way to play the next race. I can bet him to win. Yeah. Well, John Service's horse wins at 29-1.
Oh.
Now all of a sudden I'm live. I got like an 8-1 shot, except for $1, the double is paying 68-1. Oh. The problem was that the horse I like ran a bad 4th.
I hate when that happens.
But it's all about putting yourself in position. All right, it's like anything in sports. It's like you get a good shot. Have a good play, and sometimes give yourself a better odds of winning. But I got lucky on the first half. But the problem, I wouldn't even have bet the horse otherwise. I was just saying, on the off chance that he wins, I'm not risking. And what it did actually saved me a lot of money because I was going to bet a lot of money to win on the horse in the next race, but I didn't have to.
It worked out. DJ,
it saved me money, but I could have won a lot of money.
Absolutely. It would have been.
Turn it off and on to the next race.
That would have meant Murray's. All right.
That's definitely Murray's.
DJ, always great. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. See you, Steve.
School's out, the grill's fired up, and your summer adventures are just getting started. Whether it's a beach trip, a ball game, or just running the kids to practice, Sunbury Motors Ford has the vehicle to get you there. Choose from over 20 Bronco Sports, roomy, rugged, and ready, with savings up to $8,278 and prices starting at just $29,483. Want efficiency and space? Grab one of 24 fuel-sipping 2025 Ford Escape Escapes, discounted up to $5,769 and starting at only $28,352. Need a muscle for the boat or camper? Check out 35 Ford F-150s, America's bestseller, with savings just under $11,000, starting at $46,579. No pressure, no gimmicks, just real deals for real families in Central PA. Sunbury Motors Ford, coming alive in 2025. In the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury.